Welcome back, guys. We will continue on part 2 of our plant maintenance. We'll continue on the strategy of maintenance, which is the isolation. So there are few methods of isolation when you want to do your maintenance. This is one of the ways is to prevent from hazard, such as from noxious materials, energy sources, or any rotating equipment and electrical power. So isolation may be required prior to when you want to do inspection. When you want to do inspection of equipment, you need to isolate. You want to do servicing, repair, and cleaning, and also dismantling. There are 3 phases. They should be separated permits, 3 phases, which is a PTW permit to work for isolation, the main job of the maintenance, of course, and also de-isolation. So these are the main 3 stages in the maintenance. The first one is isolation. You need to have a PTW, permit to work, the main job, and also the de-isolation. Methods of available for isolating a vessel of fire. For example, you close and lock the valve, or double block and bleed valve system. When you insert a slip plate or physical disconnection, we'll go through one by one. However, close and lock the valve is the less effective ways to do. And of course, the most effective way is you disconnect. You isolate them by disconnecting. We go one by one. For example, this is number 1. Close and lock isolate valve. For example, if you want to do maintenance in this category, in this work area, the pipe, this area, and there is a pipe flowing or gas or liquid, for example. In order to do the maintenance of this area, you need to lock this valve. Okay, you close and lock the valve. However, this is the least effective method because a lot of accident occurred due to this valve is corroded and jammed. If this valve is corroded or jammed, the gas or the liquid could still flow through when you're still doing your maintenance. So you cannot just rely only one valve for isolation purposes. Okay. For example, if the valve is open in error, it's a human error. So accidentally they open the valve and you are doing your maintenance work here. So this will create an accident. Even 2 isolation valve in series do not always prevent the passage of fluid. Even though you have another valve here, also will not prevent the passage of fluid 100%. Okay, this is the least effective ways in isolating for work maintenance. Second one is double block and bleed valve system. For example, this is your work area. You have 2 valves, as I mentioned just now. However, 2 valves is just not enough. You need to have a bleed valve system. Okay, for example, if this valve is jammed, you can have an exit valve. For example, you can open this valve so that this area will not have an increased pressure. So not just having 2 valves, but you have a bleed valve. We call it a bleed valve. This will make your isolation process better or safer. This is called double block and bleed valve system. And the third one is insertion of a slip plate. You have a valve and you install a slip plate over here, so that if the valve is accidentally open, you have a block over here. The slip plate will block the flow throughout the working area. And of course, the last one, if you can disconnect the pipe. This is the most effective ways of doing. But however, of course, when you want to disconnect, this is most tedious ways to do. And normally contractors will avoid disconnecting them. Okay, this is the physical, the physical disconnection. This is the best ways in terms of safety. You disconnect them, then you do your work maintenance here. This example of double block bleed valve, double block bleed ball valve. This is double valve, and you have a valve bleeding down there, a slip plates, double block bleed valve. This is the second category of double block, and also a flange to block. When you isolate valve, it should be lock and tag, and you have to install a warning notice securely attached. The slip plate and blind flange should be used strong enough to withstand the highest pressure which may occur. When you use your plates, slip plates of a flange to block the valve, it needs to withstand the pressure of the pipe. The close and lock isolation valve method should be used only for the isolation of low hazard fluids. Cannot use the lock and isolation valve for hazardous fluids. And pipeline vessel should be designed to facilitate isolation. When you design your pipeline or vessel, you need to design them easier for isolation. Next is purging. Purging involves replacing one gas or vapor with another. For example, when you have a gas, for example, carbon dioxide in your vessel, you need to push out the carbon dioxide by purging in nitrogen, example. So you purge in nitrogen inside the vessels and the carbon dioxide will go out from your vessel. Cleaning, of course, normal water washing, chemical cleaning, steaming, water jetting, solvent jetting, that's all example of cleaning before you do your maintenance. These are all for your knowledge of the confined space. There are A, B, C, D, and E classification of confined space, where it is in a space where inadequate natural ventilation. Normally, you need to have a, a license in order to work in confined space. So not to go through an exam or a training before you can do your maintenance in a confined space, because sometimes, most of the time, the equipments are located in a confined space. So whenever, as an engineer or technician, when you want to do your maintenance in equipment which is located in a confined space, so you need to know what class of confined space are you dealing with. So the class A, you can read all of this. Class A, confined space, contaminate flammable. Confined class B, C, D, and E. So you just read the category of confined space. So what are concerned with confined space? Of course, flammable substances, residues that remain in the tank, they evaporate, flammable gas. So these are the concern when you are dealing with confined space. Toxic substance, oxygen deficiency, of course, lack of oxygen enriched atmosphere, noxious fume. So before entering confined space, you need to know the procedures. You need to apply for the permit to work. You need to test the gas. For example, if there is an H2S or SO2, you need to test them first. So permit system will work, should be controlled by a formal system. PTW is meant to control the maintenance, so that continuous control of the work can be done, and the person responsible for overall control work for as education. These are all the objective of the permit system. You just read through this. Well, 18 And normally, what is the content of the permit? It has a company name and address, the title, cost, the number, the person involved, location, for which equipment, description of work, isolation requirement, hazard identification, precaution, PPE, and who authorizes any extension or handback and cancellation. These are example of a permit to work. So you need to have all these elements in a permit to work. That's all for plant maintenance. We'll see you in the next chapter. Thank you.